Reconnect with your authentic self. Ask, what do I really want? What excites me? What values matter most to me? Give yourself permission to explore passions and desires without judgment. Something my guides had asked me to do when they were helping me to heal the ways that I would abandon myself is they asked me to sit down and write down what it is that I wanted in my life and do it in sections. What do you want as a job? What do you want as your home? What do you want as your relationship? How do you want your relationship with your kids to be? What's important to you? And be specific. And so I sat down and I just started writing these things out. And what it made me realize is I had to sit with what it is that I wanted. No one else's input, no one else's desires, no one else's criticism of what I wanted. It was just me and this piece of paper. And so I got real honest with myself. And I wrote down everything that I wanted in my life. Hello, beautiful people. So today I was actually planning on doing a follow-on video to my spiritual awakening journey. But when I went to my guides and I asked them what it is that they wanted me to tell you about spiritual awakenings, they kind of laughed and said, well, spiritual awakenings are nice and we will talk about those, but we actually have something more pressing to talk about today. And then they told me that they wanted me to talk about the ways that we abandon ourselves. They made it really clear at the time when they were telling me this that apparently there's a lot of y'all out here who are doing this on a regular basis. And I get it. I used to do it all the time too. And I really believe that they want us to not do this to ourselves anymore. They really want us to love life and do the things that make us happy and excited. And it's really important that when something lights us up, something that we consider exciting and fun and enticing to us, that we do it. And sometimes that causes strife in relationships with other people because they may not agree or they don't understand exactly what it is that you want to do. But what ends up happening oftentimes is that when this person that we care about or this other thing comes along that maybe doesn't give us the time to do it, then we decide that it's not important and we abandon it, which ultimately leaves us abandoning a piece of ourselves. You see, what it means to abandon yourself is when you have something that means a lot to you, that you're very passionate and excited about, but then you get into a disagreement about that thing with a spouse or with a friend. And because of that disagreement, you feel disharmony now about this thing, and instead you feel friction and discomfort. This is because the thing that lit you up was a part of you and what you wanted to do in this life. But this disagreement pulls you away and makes you feel like if you go forward, there's going to be issues. And so this hinders your excitement level and makes you feel as though it's not best to follow through on it. But this will ultimately force you to abandon this part of yourself if you continue to make this decision. So instead, listen to your body. When this feeling arises, check in with yourself to see if it's something that you're willing to abandon, and then go forward. But how do you make this decision without alienating the other person? Well, this is not so simple. But at the same time, it's also very simple. You see, the person may not have even wanted you to stop what you were doing. Maybe they just questioned you about it, but then you feel it may cause issues, and so you let it go quickly. But what if you're just making an assumption? What if that person just needed more clarification or was just expressing a concern and didn't expect you to stop at all? What if you made this choice to abandon yourself simply because you were afraid the strife that it may cause in the relationship? When it's someone that you care about deeply, you're always going to have this concern for that person's desires and needs. But it's a really fine line to walk, right? If this is the case, I suggest asking a few follow-up questions. Do you want me to stop doing this thing? And if the answer is no, then first, you must believe them. Now, believing them is something that I struggled with myself. I felt like it was an answer to not cause friction in the relationship, or maybe that person wasn't being honest about what they were feeling. But you have to trust that if the person is telling you this, they're telling you this for their own reasons. And it's not up to you to determine what those are. It's just up to you to believe what they say. Now, if you truly don't believe what they say, then you probably need to have more discussions about that. but we'll just assume that they're telling you the truth about how they feel. And so believe them, and then you can drop this desire to abandon yourself. However, if the answer is yes, then I would suggest some follow-up questions like why? Is there a better time? What happens if I don't? If I do this, do you need me to do it differently and why? This gives the person the ability to express what the concern is and for both of you to discuss ways to move forward together. But it also gets very specific about the concern, and this leaves little room for doubt on your part. And then you'll have to sit with the answers to determine how to move forward. This may upset you, it may cause you to have feelings you didn't expect, and it may require you to take some space to sit with your feelings about what was said. And then maybe come back to the conversation later. But ultimately, you're going to have to come to terms with this person and explain to them why you're so passionate and excited, and express that you really need their support because it's important that you have it. This will not always be an easy conversation and may lead to more disagreements even, but it'll be worth your time in the end. For either way it goes, you'll come to know more about that person and yourself, and you'll be able to make more informed decisions about what needs to be done. These conversations can be difficult and even filled with anxiety. It may be a good idea to spend some time beforehand, if possible, to sit with yourself. Determine how strongly you feel about this thing. What will happen if that person doesn't support it? How will I react? What decisions will you make based on that information? What are the consequences of those decisions? And are you prepared for them? What's the most important thing for you to express to this person in that conversation? What's important for the other person to know about why it's so important to you? And if you decide that this thing is not so important to you and you're willing to drop it, how does that feel in your gut? Do you sense that feeling in your stomach, or are you okay with letting it go? Only you can know the answer to that question. Why does any of this even matter? What happens to you when you abandon yourself? Well, there are many things that this can signify, and in fact is usually quite an entangled mess for most people. Self-worth and the ability to know you're worthy of things that excite you is usually the biggest issue for most people. Maybe you're already doubting you could do it, and this person questioning you just feels like confirmation that you can't or that you shouldn't, or even an excuse to let yourself off the hook for doing it. In this case, this is part of your soul's plan, then it will keep coming up for you. You'll need to keep looking at it to determine the ways in which you can meet the goal. You'll need to deal with the reasons why you keep walking away from it. You'll need to heal that value issue. Get to the root of why that belief is in you in the first place. This will not be easy and will take extreme honesty with yourself. This is the one that I personally have struggled with the most, especially after my awakening, because I really wanted my husband to be on board and excited for all the newfound love I have for spirituality. But he wasn't on the same page, and it took him a while to get there, just like my guide said it would. But there were many times over the years of learning my gifts and understanding what this is that I wanted to abandon myself because he didn't always understand or even agree. We would go round and round about things, and then I finally had to tell him that I couldn't stop doing this because I felt like it was what God called me to do. It caused issues, absolutely. And I had never said that to him in our 25-year relationship. I had always chosen to abandon myself in the past in a similar scenario. But then, of course, I would blame him for that. But this was different, or at least I was different now. Either way, we had to come back to it and keep having the discussion. And at times, it was very difficult, and I wasn't even sure where it would end. But eventually, we agreed that we would not always agree, and that I had to loosen the reins on him wanting to come with me 100% on this journey. And he had to agree to be willing to trust me on the things that he wasn't sure about. But the fear of losing that person or something else you value in your life when you make these decisions is very difficult, because you will need to examine why this person has even been placed in your life, especially if this thing you desire is part of your soul's plan. Maybe they're only meant to be here for a period of time to help you learn to love yourself and heal, but then they're no longer going to be in your life. Or maybe they belong in your life, but they're a healing partner and meant to mirror back to yourself your fears and your anxieties and the things you don't wish to face. In this case, it requires a lot of self-introspection and shadow work in order to clear out the limiting beliefs about your relationship with this person and yourself. And once you heal these things that was so difficult, they now become easy and effortless. This is the exact process that my guides took me through to heal things in myself that made me want to abandon myself and heal the beliefs I had about my husband and why he wasn't quite comfortable with me pursuing this with such intention. It took a lot of journaling and getting honest with myself and with my husband to get through it, but we finally did, and now he supports me fully in what I'm doing. It was not easy, but we worked through it. So what are some common ways that we abandon ourselves? Ignoring our own needs, prioritizing others to the point of exhaustion, never taking care of our physical, emotional, or mental well-being, or suppressing your emotions, dismissing feelings by telling yourself that you shouldn't feel a certain way, or numbing emotions with distractions such as substances or overworking. Self-criticism, constantly judging or shaming yourself instead of offering self-compassion. Seeking external validation, basing self-worth on how others perceive you and instead of developing an inner confidence. Staying in toxic situations, tolerating relationships, jobs, or environments that drain or harm you because you don't believe you deserve better. Not setting boundaries. This is a big one. Letting others dictate your time, energy, or choices because you fear rejection or conflict. Dismissing your dreams and desires. Convincing yourself that your goals aren't realistic or worth pursuing, often out of a fear of failure. Avoiding self-reflection. Not taking time to understand yourself, your past, or what you truly want. Changing self-abandonment starts with awareness and intentional action. There are ways that you can stop abandoning yourself and show up. Be present. Be aware of what you want, what you desire, what you're wishing to create in the world, what lights you up. But also there are some things that you can do, such as recognizing the patterns. Pay attention to the moments when you ignore your needs or silence your emotions or seek validation over self-trust. Journaling can really help you uncover when and why you abandon yourself. Practice self-compassion. Replace self-criticism with kindness. Treat yourself like you would a close friend or a child. Acknowledge that your feelings and needs are valid. Rebuild self-trust. Keep small promises to yourself. Follow through on commitments, even if it's just as simple as drinking water or resting when you're tired. Listen to your intuition and act on what feels right for you. Prioritize your needs and identify what truly nourishes you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and then make space for those things. Learn to differentiate between people-pleasing and genuine care. Oh my gosh. If I could say that again, learn to differentiate between people-pleasing and genuine care. People-pleasing can cause so many issues, and it's important that we recognize when we're doing it to avoid conflict or when we're doing it because we really truly care for that person and want to do something to please them. There's a big difference here, and sometimes it's very difficult to determine which is which. So just pay attention. If you're doing something for somebody and you feel like your needs aren't being met, or you're doing it and you're tired and don't have the time or don't have the emotional capacity to do it, pay attention to how you're feeling. Maybe you don't make a different decision the first time or the second time or the third time. But eventually, as you're paying attention to what you're feeling, you'll come to realize when you're people-pleasing and when you're doing something because you genuinely want to. This is very important and will help you to realize the ways that you abandon yourself just to make someone else happy. The next thing you can do is set boundaries. Say no when you need to, even if it's uncomfortable. Protect your energy by surrounding yourself with people who respect and uplift you. Express your emotions instead of suppressing feelings. Find healthy ways to process them. Maybe therapy or art or moving your body or talking to someone you trust. Reconnect with your authentic self. Ask, what do I really want? What excites me? What values matter most to me? Give yourself permission to explore passions and desires without judgment. Something my guides had asked me to do when they were helping me to heal the ways that I would abandon myself is they asked me to sit down and write down what it is that I wanted in my life and do it in sections. What do you want as a job? What do you want as your home? What do you want as your relationship? How do you want your relationship with your kids to be? What's important to you? And be specific. And so I sat down and I just started writing these things out. And what it made me realize is I had to sit with what it is that I wanted. No one else's input, no one else's desires, no one else's criticism of what I wanted. It was just me and this piece of paper. And so I got real honest with myself. And I wrote down everything that I wanted in my life. And when I stopped writing it and I went back and I looked at it, I was a bit surprised about what was there, but also what wasn't there. I was a bit surprised that I wasn't materialistic. I thought I would be like, oh, I want this kind of car and I want my house to be this big and look like this. But really what I found was important to me was to have a peaceful home and a home with beautiful things in it and a place that is safe. And so it made me pinpoint my own desires, and it made me realize the ways in which I actually was still in touch with what I wanted. I just get knocked off of it really easily when someone else comes along and maybe doesn't agree with what I want. And so that really helped me to ground myself into getting in touch with my feelings, getting in touch with my own desires. And after that exercise, what I found is I felt more comfortable about expressing what it is I wanted. I felt like I was more in touch with that part of me. And so that exercise really, really helped me. It helped me to understand that this is really what I want to do, that the job that I want to do is exactly what it is I'm doing now. And I think that's ultimately what helped me to push forward and get through those hard conversations and really push to do this. The last thing is heal the root cause of the self-abandonment. Often this starts in childhood with past experiences. Therapy or inner child work can help heal these deep-seated emotions. This is all going to take time and space. And so don't beat yourself up when you try to not abandon yourself, but you find yourself doing it again. Recognizing it. Each time you go through that process, you're learning more about yourself. You're learning more about what triggers you to want to do that. You're learning more about who you truly are and what you truly want. And if the person that you're having the conflict with loves you and cares about you, they will continue to work through this with you in support of you as a partner to you. And if that person doesn't support you, then you're going to have to make some decisions and you're going to have to figure out what you truly want in your life and whether you're okay with abandoning it or whether you're not. But ultimately, you will be more true to yourself than ever before. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what my guides had to say about abandonment. I truly hope that they help you to heal and help you to discover the ways that you're abandoning yourself and to stop doing it. This is a problem a lot of women have, especially, but men suffer with this too. My husband also abandons himself. We both had to work through healing this in ourselves. And it hasn't been easy, but ultimately we are both much more happier people being in touch with who we are and what we want and supporting each other through those things. And I know at the end of this exercise, and if you keep working on this, you will also be in that same place. I hope you take some time to share your stories below or share ways that this video has helped you to discover how you do this to yourself and how to heal it. I would love to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye-bye.